Hey man, what it is? This is Deem, and I am your host, and this is By Any Means. There go to PayPal at Deem by any means. There go to Cash App, $ Deem by any means. Y'all already know what I'm about to say. I don't care if you leave $1, $2, $3. Is much appreciated. Abdullah Mason, aka Magneto. He is Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson's biggest competition. The 20-year-old is growing into his body. He is looking amazing. Had another knockout last night. Early knockout. This is about his third, fourth one in a row. Abdullah Mason needs to be fast tracked, and Abdullah Mason is the best prospect in all of boxing. Keyshawn Davis, no, he'll beat him. Raymond Matala, y'all know that's my guy. A big fan of him. He'll beat him. Lomachenko, he'll beat him. Abdullah Mason is a generational talent. Abdullah Mason is Gervonta Davis's and Shakur Stevenson's biggest competition. I think that he's going to be a multiple division champion. I think he will be multiple unifications and a possibility, depending on what Tank and Shakur do in the next few years, a possibility to really be a big dog at that division or be undisputed if both of those young gentlemen decide to move up in the next year or two. Because I doubt that Abdullah Mason will be fast tracked fast enough to catch Shakur and Gervonta for actual fights. I think that he's just in a different generation. I think by the time where his name gets big enough, or where it's to the point where people are clamoring for that fight, I think that both of those gentlemen won't even be in a division anymore, and then that's going to cause problems. I think he's in a similar position that Jerron Boots Ennis is in, but even a little bit further behind. But Bob Arum, you have to fast track this young man and do right by him because he is a superstar. He is a superstar. And like I said, he's growing into his body. And that's the other thing about Abdullah Mason, where he could get those fights with a Gervonta or Shakur Stevenson, but I don't think it'd be at 135. I think the fact that he's 20 years old and he's even he looked in better physical condition than he did in this fight than he did even in his last fight. So I think by the time he's 23, 24, he will outgrown 135. He'll be too big. He hasn't even got no Diddy. He hasn't even got his man body yet. And I think that's going to be the extra 5, 10 pounds that he needs. Like I think Abdullah Mason will probably finish his career around. I think he's similar to Bud Crawford. He will have a Bud Crawford path in life. I think that he will finish at like 147 or 154. So because he's just a rangy, long, tall kid. He ain't that tall. He about 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", around that. But you can tell that his body is going to be able to hold more weight than it's allowing him to do right now. So he probably, because he's still a teenager, basically. He just turned 20. So the young man, by the time he's 25, though, he's going to be, I think, outgrown the 135 division. And I think that's when he'll be able to clamor for a belt at 140 and get things popping there. So he's somebody that those guys at 140 and 135 got to worry about. But I just don't think right now. A couple years from now, yes. Do I think he's good enough to beat a lot of these guys now? Absolutely, I do. But we know how that go, and that's the same thing I feel about Jerron Ennis. But Abdullah Mason, man, is just amazing. Him and Carmel Moten, I believe, are the best prospects in boxing right now. But I just think that Abdullah Mason has even more. He has better footwork and better defense, in my opinion, than Carmel Moten, which means a lot in boxing. Which means a lot in boxing, and I don't see too many weaknesses from Abdullah Mason. What I see from Abdullah Mason is that he just needs to get better and fine tune things that he does do. Like when he's on the inside, being more sure about it, not being so reactionary when he does his shoulder roll, actually having faith in that shoulder roll, like he did with that punch that knocked that boy out. I mean, knocked that boy down. When he kept his shoulder tucked tight, as soon as the guy threw the punch, no hesitation, he fired off. There you go. And I think as he gets more comfortable doing that, especially being a southpaw. A lot of people are going to avoid him. You're going to hear a lot of comparisons with Abdullah Mason to this guy that we all know, Shakur Stevenson. And I think that he is a Shakur Stevenson just with a little bit more power. I don't think he's as good as Shakur Stevenson is defensively. So I think what he has, I think they have similar styles. And I think what he lacks in the defensive ability, Shakur Stevenson gains. And what Shakur Stevenson lacks in the power ability, he has. So I would love to see that clash one day. I think that clash is much more likely than a Gervonta Davis clash would be. But I'm not even sure if Abdullah Mason and Shakur Stevenson's is friends. So I don't really know how that's going to work out. But Abdullah Mason, man, is the superstars that we need. The things that we say we need in boxing, the new talent, being able to push stars. Well, Bob Arum, you have one. And you have a couple actually. I think if you push Duran Jared Anderson the right way, I think you got a star in that way. If you push Shakur Stevenson the right way, the thing is, Bob don't want to spend money to make these guys stars. That's why he likes having guys from other countries because it basically does the work itself, similar to Noah Inoue, where Bob don't have to promote Noah Inoue. Noah Inoue is so big time where he's from, it doesn't matter. You understand? He don't have to come to it like Bob likes. That's why he loved Lomachenko. American fighters you have to build because the American public is much, much more harder to win over than other countries. They have more country pride and for their countrymen. America, we get behind our countrymen too, but they got to show us something before we able to do that. So Abdullah Mason was just dominant again. I think you have to fast track him because all the guys that you would quote unquote say are at his level, they're just not good enough. And you're going to continue to see the first round, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round knockouts. You're not going to see things go to the championship rounds with Abdullah Mason. You have to put him in there with somebody like Keyshawn or Raymond Maritala now. I think he's ready for them now. I think anybody under that caliber of fighter, he's going to just run through them, and it's going to be easy work. And you're going to have to make him fight 3, 4, 5 times, at least 4 times a year, because none of his fights are going to last that long. The Top Rank does a very good job of putting out a lot of events. Like Abdullah Mason should be on the next event. You understand? Like the guy didn't do anything to Abdullah Mason. And if he's not on this event or the next event, he definitely need to be on that Shakur Stevenson card. You feel what I'm saying? Like he needs to fight 3, 4 times a year because his competition, his peers, his quote unquote peers, there is no peers. There is nobody. He's light years ahead of all of them guys. That's in the lightweight division, the 135 division. That's quote unquote where he's at. So he needs to be stepping up in the competition, fighting George Cambos's and Maxie Hughes's and Keyshawn Davis's and Raymond Maritala's. And those are the type of guys, type of fights that he needs. I'm not even going to ask for him to get a Gervonta Davis or Shakur Stevenson right now. That's a little unrealistic. But everybody else under that, even a Lomachenko, that may be unrealistic. But everybody under that, the Maxie Hugheses, the Kid Austins, all of those guys. Like I think he'll beat Kid Austin right now. It ain't no think about it. I know he'll beat Kid Austin right now, like at this very moment. So it's he needs those type of fights. So I would love for that to happen because then I think once he beats a Kid Austin, Keyshawn Davis, Raymond Maritala, now you could clamor for the Lomas, the Maxie Hugheses, Maxie Hughes will be where the other guys at, but the George Camboses, the Lomas, the Shakurs, the Frank Martins, the Gervonta Davis, though then he'll be able to get those fights. But I think by the time he beats the lower level guys that does have a somewhat of a name, I think his body will be ready to move on to the 140 division. So and if he's going to be a guy, I'm telling y'all now, that's going to be highly avoided. He's going to be a guy that's going to be highly talked down to, and he might be the next Gervonta Davis in as far as some of the most hated. Because you're going to hear I promise you, most reasonable boxing fans are going to talk very, very highly of him. So just watch out for the guys who start talking down on Abdullah Mason. It'll make sense. It'll make sense why these things are happening the way they want them to happen. Because Abdullah Mason does have superstar written all over him. So congratulations, young man. Keep doing what you're doing, being the best prospect in boxing. I'm gonna keep watching. I'm gonna keep supporting. I'm gonna keep trying to grow your name. Y'all know what I call him, Magneto. And the reason I call him Magneto because he's like he just pulls everything towards him. He literally, it takes a Professor Xavier. It takes somebody who is going to outsmart him to beat him. But as far as physical talent, as far as having all the tools in a toolbox, he could rip the earth apart. Same way Magneto could. There's nothing that he can't touch. There's nothing that he doesn't have. And if you think about Magneto as an X-Men, what is Magneto's biggest power? Well, he metal. And it's hard to beat Magneto because damn near everything in this life, in this world, has somewhat of metal in it. That's what makes him so dominant. That's what made him so powerful of an X-Men. That's why police can't deal with him. You know, it's metal in the earth. He can literally destroy the earth. And I think that Abdullah Mason, aka Magneto, has all those same similar tools in his toolbox where he just gotta fine tune his stuff. But he's every bit as dangerous as you would like. It would take a Gervonta Davis or somebody like that to tear him apart. And I don't even think that they would just tear him apart. And that's what I'm saying. Gervonta Davis is the Phoenix, if that makes any sense to you. But if it's not a Phoenix or a Professor Xavier, like I call Shakur Stevenson, if you don't have one of them, you're not going to beat it. There's nothing you can do with Magneto. There's literally nothing you can do with them. They are the only two X-Men that can even halt him. There's nothing you can do with this man. He's that dangerous of a character. So shout out to Abdullah Mason, man. Y'all already know what this is. Dean by any means. And I'll holla at y'all.